can't say welcome back, everybody. I won't do the old intro again.
Never again.
Yeah, but we're back, everybody. We're here, and we're on the heels of a big announcement from a big Olympia competitor. We're gonna just start with that right away.
Yeah. It was surprising to see it, but Big Ramy has pulled out of the 2023 Olympia.
So you heard it here first. Nowhere else.
Yeah,
We're breaking the news.
We're exclusive. We got exclusive rights to announce this on Apple Podcasts because that's where everybody's going to hear it.
Exactly.
Not
Everyone
Instagram,
comes to us for
not YouTube. Apple and Spotify podcasts is where all the news comes out.
And Anchor, if you're listening on
Spotify or Spotify for podcasters is what it's called. It was Anchor, but now it's if you look it up, it's podcasters.spotify.com is the site, and that's where we post our episodes. It's our distribution site basically, and when we post our podcast there, it distributes to all the outlets that we have gotten approval for posting, which is like basically all of them.
But that's where I go to get my breaking news on the bodybuilding world.
You could listen to our podcast on there, but now it's called Spotify for podcasters, and that's where all the important people go for news. It's the good stuff. It's the unbiased opinions.
Unabridged versions.
Yeah, unabridged, unbiased, straight, center, no bias, nothing.
We're not even in the bodybuilding world. We're breaking news as we hear it.
Yeah, we see Nick's Strength and Power post it, and then we talk about it. That's our strategy.
We see Derek from More Plates, More Dates do an entire podcast on it, and then we turn his 15-minute one into a 2-hour one.
Essentially, yeah. We'll just stretch it out. We'll talk about a ton of different things and then touch on that. But yeah, so Big Ramy did pull out of the 2023 Olympia, which, I mean, I'm surprised he's not like retired yet. He's been competing for a while.
Yeah, it said he's 39 years old, so I mean,
yeah,
he's getting there. He's almost masters. Masters what, 50?
It depends on the competition you're in. I want to say masters for the Olympia is 45 and up.
So he's basically there.
Yeah, he's almost there. I know there's plenty of guys in men's physique that compete at in their 40s, but men's physique is a different world than men's open. I mean, men's open size, you can only hold on to that for typically maybe 10 years at the most. But then you start to fall off.
And ingesting what you ingest, like just in terms of the supplements at that size, like that's absurd.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot on the body. There's a bodybuilder, I forget who it was. It might have been from a Generation Iron documentary, but he was talking about how he's like, there's no way that any of this is healthy. He's like, if you think about it, regardless of like anything supplement wise, he said the food alone, we're eating enough for like 10 people in a lifetime. He's like, That's not how the human body is built. We're not built to digest this amount of food. And that was a really good point that he had, because I never thought about the food aspect of things. It was just like, oh, you got to eat to fuel your body. But then he was like, yeah, you're eating 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 calories a day, when really we should be having a quarter of that almost to be healthy.
If you look at, I mean, prior to modern civilization, like old, like cavemen or the hunter-gatherer people, they were super skinny because they ate literally just what the body needed. And I mean, maybe getting to like 2,000 calories. That's maybe. So
yeah, it was also just the difficulty of gathering the food too, just getting it. It's not even necessarily just what they needed. It was
I'm just saying my point that on your unhealthy food, like how much we eat, it's like absolutely, because we know the body can operate on far less.
Yeah. I mean, there are diets out there that are obviously focused on how the Neanderthals ate. Paleo is one of them, but there's people who even kind of take it a step further, and they'll do paleo, but then they'll only have like meat a couple times a week, because that's really how it was back then. They'd only have meat whenever they could actually catch an animal or kill an animal, which wasn't very often because we weren't super experienced hunters at the time, and we didn't have all these tools like bows or guns or anything like that to make hunting a lot easier. So it was just like sticks, and just beating the fucking piss out of animals with rocks or something. Like that's all they could do, And like we're slow as shit. For animals, typically we are very slow animals. So it's not like we can just catch an animal by running after it, typically.
Yeah.
So
You can only eat meat when you hunt something, and if you live in New York City, you're just going after the fat fucking squirrels and rats.
yeah. Yeah, you just go after the gigantic rats that somehow live in the sewers and shit.
Yeah.
Um there's sewer people in I think Vegas, I want to say. There's homeless people that live in the sewers in Vegas because there's like a bunch of
Interesting.
abandoned tunnels and shit, and it gets so hot
Yeah.
that they have to stay down there because it's cool down there, and it's just pure dark all the time. It's wild.
And they come up to the surface once a month.
Yeah, they just like hiss at the sun. Vitamin D, no, I don't want it. Instant burn.
See the human body doesn't need what we eat.
No, it doesn't need sun or anything to function. We just die, and that's it. That's our only job.
See, would you rather eat 6,000 calories a day or chew on this piece of cardboard? You tell me.
Yeah, this is boot leather. You want to eat some boot leather, or do you want to eat 6,000 calories of chicken? You pick.
250 grams of protein or a stick.
Yeah, more nutritional value there. A lot of micronutrients in that stick, especially if you use it as a gun first. Builds some
Yeah, I was gonna
micronutrients.
say whatever's like slathered onto it from stabbing an animal.
Yeah, exactly. All the blood, just some iron. You got some iron. Nickel tasting. Nickel tasting stick is my favorite meal. We did kind of go off on a tangent, but yeah. So to add to it, so you're saying it was like, what was the issue with Big Ramy? You were saying,
Yeah, Big Ramy, not Hottie. I misspoke before the podcast started, and Paul was
yeah,
just like, "The fuck." But yeah, Big Ramy has some kind of elbow inflammation. It's not super specific on the injury. He
not
went on
surprised.
he went on a interview with God, who was the guy who broke it? I'm blanking on the agency that covered it. Actually, I have it here on my phone. Give me one sec. He told it to I have it right here. All these ads, gosh darn it. Voice of Bodybuilding. It was a YouTube channel. Voice of Bodybuilding, and he broke it to them and just said like, "Hey, I've got severe, inflammation in my elbow. Doctor says I need to, seriously take some time and cool off with it." And I mean, the elbow is one of the joints that gets used a ton in the gym. If you think about like benching, you're hinging on your not truly hinging on the elbow, but you are utilizing it on your bicep curls and or triceps. Your elbow is engaged as well, just moving it in the direction that it moves for those exercises. So like it's a big part of it. And I mean, someone who's had torn tendons in his elbow, you can't really lift when it's really messed up. So I'm surprised he, made it this far before pulling out, or unless he just has already been taking time off to, heal and he just decided to break the news now. I can understand that too. But
See, that's what I think. I think that he was
yeah,
kind of holding off on it because you don't get like these guys are in prep for 8 to 12 weeks.
which means they would have
Um,
been halfway through at least in their
yeah,
prep.
he would have been most of the way there either way, and then now he decides to pull out. Like that's eight. He would have been in prep for 8 to 12 weeks prior to announcing it, at least. So he would have been in hell for 8 to 12 weeks just to pull out. Like I think he pulled out weight. Like this second, he'd be like, we'd have to like really do some damage in order to compete at this Olympia. I'd You'd pull out immediately. You'd call it a quits because you don't want to go through that anymore. If you're not even going to compete in it, you just don't go through it. Obviously, you got to taper off shit like anabolics and all of that, but the food wise, the training, the cardio, all of that, he immediately, I would have assumed, immediately pulled back the second he was like, "Hey, I can't really do it this year."
Yeah, and
That's
I
what I would
mean,
do.
like we were saying, he's 39. So I mean, if you have not just a severe injury, but any injury that you think is gonna, hinder your longevity, you probably want to take time for yourself. So
Yeah.
I understand it. Certainly gonna. I wish he was going to perform because he brought such a mid package last year that I was hoping he would like have a super overhaul and come back just absolutely diced like he did in like 21.
Hmm.
So we're unfortunately gonna have to wait a year for that because I'm sure he's gonna return at least once. Like you can't end your Olympia career on saying no because of an injury. I think you
Yeah.
have to come back, especially as a previous winner. You have to come back and just even if you place, top 10 and not even top 3 or top 5, like just top 10, you still have to come back and, just do it one last time because a lot of it like we've talked about in the past is like a lot of these bodybuilders are doing it for the love of it. Like at
Yeah.
least I mean old generations, but even some people
No.
now are just doing it for the love of it and like
Yeah.
you just want to be on stage. Like I've never been on stage, but I'm a performer. Like I love like performing for people in real life, like in everything else I do, and I want to be on stage. And I haven't even gotten the itch yet. And you've been on stage, and like you want to get back to it too. Like it's just like
Yeah.
that craving, and especially with these big time like the guys who are in the Olympia, they're only doing a couple shows a year if they don't have to qualify. Like
Oh, just
so
one if they don't have to qualify. They'll just do the Olympia. Okay, maybe
yeah.
the Arnold, depending. A
Well, so
lot of the
that
time, the
was the other
Arnold is
thing.
for the money. A lot of time, the
That
Arnold is for the money now.
And that's the other thing. There's a potential Arnold return because Arnold happens in March, so that's 5 months. So from what I
Yeah.
was reading, he said that the Arnold is pretty good chance. So
Yeah.
if he
I can see
misses the
that.
Olympia, we might be able to get Big Ramy at the Arnold, and then that'll be him like you know basically gearing up for the next Olympia in 24. So
Yeah.
we might
I
get
can
him
see that
earlier
happening.
than the next Olympia, but even if we don't gonna be sad to not see him this year.
Yeah, I mean that's Big Rami's problem is that he's always come in like he always looks insane on social media. Like even 4 weeks out, like he'll look fucking crazy. Like he'll look dice to the gills, and then he'll show up on stage. He's like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" Like he's all
Yeah.
washed out. Like he lost a lot of conditioning, stuff like that. So it's just for some reason he could never nail his peak. And I think 21, like he semi nailed it, but then also everybody else came in worse than he did. Is what I think is like sometimes with bodybuilding, you say the saying is that if you lose, you just weren't the best bodybuilder that day. But sometimes also, um, winning, you'll see some shows where the guy who won didn't really bring something super spectacular, and that just kind of shows that like just because some people win at these giant shows doesn't necessarily mean that they like came in 100%. It just everybody else came in worse than they did, which is
Yep.
unfortunate, but that's how the game is. It's like any other sport. Sometimes you don't even have to be the better team. You just don't have to be the worst team. You know, if
Mhm.
the if you're watching a basketball game or football game or something like that, you just need to perform technically better than the other team, or they need to perform worse than you are. But that was Big Ramy, I think, in 21 and 2020 and all that. It's just I think he just performed or he just came in better than everybody else did, but everybody else came in worse than he did. Uh, but I think now, even with Ramy competing, I think it's Derek Lunford's time to reign champ.
Well, we thought he was gonna bring it last year. I mean, good for
Yeah,
Hottie. We obviously love the Hottie story, but I know you and I, well, more so you, but we're at least saying that last year should have been it already. So this year is probably a lot of like the revenge tour kind of.
yeah, yeah, again, last year, we did talk about it last year when it happened. I get why Hottie won. He put in the years, he put in the time, and it could have been a toss up either way. Like I was happy with Hottie winning because he brought a great package, and it could have been Derek as well. It literally could have been either one of them, first and second. It could have gone either way. So that's why I'm like, okay, that's why I'm actually in a way happy that they picked Hottie because Hottie's been busting his ass for a long ass time in the Olympia to try to win, and he's come so close so many times. So when it's a toss up, I think you should give it to the person who's been working towards it longer than the other person. Hadi's been very influential, especially in the Middle East. He's been doing it for a very long time at the Olympia specifically, not even just bodybuilding, but competing at the Olympia for a very long time. And you also need to understand too, like that's why it must have been, that's the other reason I think that Big Ramy held out on the announcement was that when it comes to society and culture in the Middle East, Heidi did talk about it in one of the Generation Iron documentaries that he was in. They talk about how it's the Middle East, Arabic culture is very much built off of honor, honor and success and pride and all of that. So when you come back to your country, even in second place, you're basically like, they just throw you to the wolves. Like they don't give a shit about you anymore. Like they don't care. They in a way they almost hate you because you lost. Like you should have won. Blah blah blah. But when he won, he came back like literally a god. Like they were like borderline worshiping him when he came back because he brought the world's best title back. You know.
Well,
So
the videos of Hadi's, or sorry, the airport and the streets lining the airport. I mean,
yeah,
it was like, do you remember back when Brazil won the World Cup and when Rio filled up and they it was just absolutely every single person inside of the country of Brazil was in this one city.
yeah, it's
That's
wild.
basically what it was for Hadi coming back
Yeah,
to Iran.
yeah, it was every people who didn't even watch bodybuilding were celebrating with him because it's just an accomplishment for them. Uh, so that's also why I'm okay with it because he was able to experience that glory. He brought glory back to his country. That was the word I was looking for. It's a little bit of honor and it's a lot of glory. It's all about glory, I think. And he
I think
brought that
they
back to his country.
I think they enacted a giant statue for him too. I feel like I remember seeing that. Hold on.
I'm not surprised. Not surprised. That's funny.
Yeah, yeah. Hadi Chopin immortalized with massive 10-foot statue in Iran.
That's wild. Good for him.
Let me see if
But
I could see a picture of it. Wow. Yeah, that thing is massive.
let me take a look at it.
That's insane.
High Chupin statue.
It's enormous.
Yeah, yeah, it is. That thing makes him. The proportions on it are a bit better, but that's wild. That thing is sick.
You
He's
know
diced to the
how
gills as a statue.
we used to like look at Greek statues and whatnot, and because those were the relics of the past. So now, when if our civilization ever goes by the wayside and a new modern civilization comes around, they're gonna see like the Arnold one, they're gonna see the Hadi one, and be like, "Wow, that's that those were the peak things of their time."
Yeah, yeah. They're gonna see the statues and be like, "Is this what they looked like?" They're gonna see the Hadi Chupin statue and be like, "Is this what every human looked like?" Oh
And
my
it's
gosh.
gonna be a bunch of multi-hair colored fucking wheelchair driving people, and they're gonna be like, that disgusts me.
That makes me feel bad about myself. So that's bad. I'm proud to be who I am and not put any effort into it. But yeah, so good for him, anyways, with that Olympia last year. But with that being said, I do think that it's Derek's time to win. I think that he's going to bring a package that's going to be insane. I also am very much looking forward to Hunter Labrada. Hunter is looking absolutely diced 4 weeks out. Like he looks insane right now. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm looking forward to that for him. Um, as far as I think overall, I think Derek's going to win as long as he can nail his peak like he did last year. I think Hunter, I could see him top three potentially. Uh, Top three for Hunter. As far as the other top three, I'm not sure. It's hard to say. Uh, it could be. Um, what's his? Why am I drawing? I always draw a blank whenever I want to talk about bodybuilders. Brendan.
Curry.
Yes, Curry. Yes. Brandon, it could be Brandon Curry top three, but he always comes in a bit unconditioned. He just never nails it. Uh, so I think it's just kind of come down to Hunter Labrada, Derek, maybe Brandon Curry, maybe Hottie, potentially if he nails his peak again. I could see that happening. I think I want Regan Grimes in top five, but I don't think that's going to happen. Maybe top 10.
Dude, I thought Regan Grimes missed the qualifier from
No, he
that
got it.
show. He
He
got
got
it?
it.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
he did compete in two. He didn't win the first one, but then he won the second one, and he got his
Yeah.
Olympia qualification. Um, I think it came down to his peak and prep for those shows. Like it was like, okay, let's say like you had 10 weeks of prep. You can use a show for prep. So maybe they were like, hey, you know what, let's hit the show. If we win it, great. If not, we'll use it as a way to push your body to get to the next show. And he ended up placing second. So they're like, all right, now let's do this show. Because you can typically, for most shows, you can register like I think it's like up to about 24 hours out. I want to say you have to register at least 24 hours out from the show, and then you can compete in it. But
Yeah.
so they could potentially not even know what show he's going to hit until he registers for it. So I think that's what really happened. I've always been a big fan of Regan Grimes. I think if
Well,
he just needs the size, really.
I remember seeing Regan Grimes on one of the first generation irons, like
It was
because when he was like
three
super
actually.
early on in his career, like
He wasn't even
he's
pro yet.
almost yeah,
I don't
he's
think.
almost like unrecognizable like to what he's become now,
Yeah, I think he was in Generation Iron 2, I want to say.
something
Um,
like that.
yeah, Regan's gone through a bunch of different periods within his bodybuilding career. It was like he competed in Classic originally, and then he went to Oxygen Gym, which is where Big Ramy trains. So
Hmm.
Brandon Curry, Big Ramy and Brandon Curry, I believe, were both at Oxygen. I don't know if Brandon Curry's still with them, but I know Big Ramy still is. So Regan goes to Oxygen Gym, puts on an insane amount of size, just so much fucking size. He got up to like over 300 pounds in like a year when he was like 250. It was crazy. Pushed obviously copious amounts of gear,
Yeah.
ate tons of food. And the thing with Oxygen is that I want to say it's obviously like invite only. These guys are invite only to this gym. And the guy who runs it just loves bodybuilding. He was never a bodybuilder, never really not he's into fitness, but he's not really like he's never even come close to bodybuilding, but he's just filthy fucking rich and he just
Yeah.
loves the sport. So I think it's like kind of like a full ride. Like he pays for everything. They do like electricity monitoring and like electronic like stimulation and all of that. They do all these different blood tests and like they always got these machines hooked up to them when they're doing cardio and shit. Like all this different stuff they're using to try to enhance the human body through this guy's money and through Kuwait and all of that because that's where Oxygen Gym is based off of is Kuwait. So Regan put on all this size, but then I think something either happened with his health or like he wasn't happy with where he was at, so that he came back to Canada for a while, downsized a bit, but focused on quality tissue rather than just overall size and getting bloated and shit. And then from there, he then eventually broke up with his wife, I think, at the time, which was kind of sad because he had his wife, I think, in Generation Iron. I think it was the second one, I think.
Yep.
Um, and then now they're not together and they haven't been together for a while. And then he moved to Vegas, and that's where he's at now. And he trains with, isn't is it Hani Rambod? Oh, no, I don't think
Well,
it's no, I don't think it's Hani. It's oh my gosh, I could name him normally. He also trains Logan Franklin, I believe. The guy, the coach. Not he doesn't really. Well, I mean, he trains with Regan, but he's a coach. It's not Matt Jansen. It's oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank?
I'm just looking on his Instagram trying to see it.
It's Milo Sarkev. Duh. Wow, why did I not think of that? It's Milos Sarkev, that he is his coach. So Milos is also the coach for Logan Franklin, I believe, and Milos has been a big coach over the years. He's one of those ones that a lot of people would like love to work with, and he just picks who he works with. So he started working with Regan, um, Milos Sarkev. Let me see if I could find out who else he coaches. There's not really like a list. I wish there was like a list. Apparently, he's coached also athletes in the NBA and NHL as well for just performance in general. Um, but yeah, his Regan is like his like main athlete. Regan's the one that he focuses the most on for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he trains with Milos in Vegas now, and that's kind of what's kind of pushed him over into a more high quality physique. Is working with
Well,
with Milos.
looking through
Oh,
his
Samson
his
Dauda.
looking through his Instagram too, like he has a lot of recovery stuff on there now too. Like he's obviously getting diced for the Olympia.
Yeah.
But he's got like IV therapy treatments on here. He's got his other kind of relaxation type thing, so it looks like it's a lot healthier. And
Well, he was probably rebounding out of it for a few weeks, putting on a little bit of quality tissue while keeping the conditioning like really low, um, and really good conditioning. I mean, and then now he's probably very, very, very soon. He's probably going to bounce out of that rebound if he's not already done it. Like, there's a photo he posted a day ago. Whoa, holy shit! He's posted 5 times in a day. No, that's 4 weeks ago. These are pinned. Never mind. Five
yeah.
hours. Okay. 11 hours. Yeah. So he has posted a few times for the past day or so. But he posted yesterday. I saw this. He said 7 days low at 120 grams of carbs per day. And then now 2 days at 700 grams of carbs. So he's carbing up. It's just going to be to spike his insulin sensitivity, his overall metabolism, and all of that, so that way he is more susceptible to utilizing the nutrients that he takes in going forward. That's kind of what like a cheat day is or cheat meal is for, is so that you're more sensitive to the food you're going to be eating. So once you push that food, now like today he's in Vegas, so today or whatever he's posting all this other stuff like today, tomorrow, so on. He's probably now low carb again and really pushing the cardio and everything now that his metabolism is in a better place and his insulin sensitivity is much higher. Because 700 grams of carbs versus 120 is a fucking shit ton.
Oh yeah.
Like he's probably like force feeding that amount of carbs because when you're going through a prep like that, I did too. I mean, obviously, I'm nowhere near as experienced as he is, a drop in the bucket in comparison. But when I was going through prep, and I'm sure he goes through the same thing, your stomach shrinks because you're eating such a little amount of food, and your body adapts to having that. So that way, more food feels like a lot more than it, or less food feels like a lot more than it is. So going from 120 grams of carbs for him, then jumping to 700, like he totally had to like stretch out his stomach to eat all that.
Yeah.
Which apparently people were saying. Somebody asked what carbs they were, and he said rice and different mixes of potato, like different potatoes. Excuse me. I'm always yawning during recordings. Rice and mix of different potatoes is what he said. So he probably had some like sweet potato, maybe some purple Japanese potatoes, russet potatoes potentially, whatever it is. But yeah, if he's just doing the rice and potatoes, that shit's gonna stack up, and it's gonna be hard to eat that. So I wonder how he felt those 2 days, but he looked fucking like filled out in that photo that he posted, just absolutely wild looking.
Yeah, and I mean, I just sent you it from his Instagram, but he's got some really cool, workout things on here. I mean, obviously, when you get to that level, you get to you probably have some really cool techniques, but like he's what I sent you is he's doing rack pulls, but it's from a bench. It's like
Yeah, I see that.
it's such like a unique way of doing it. It's not like it's not achieving anything different from doing it from a rack, but it's like an idea to use for when you for when you don't have a rack available or something like that. Like that's just real interesting to see.
I mean, I feel like he has a rack available, but my thing is probably what he's going for right now. In that I can see the video right here. I think, yeah. So somebody's asking what it's good for. I think somebody's saying no, it's not for hammies. You're fucking yeah. I was gonna say you're crazy. Uh, yeah, it's just for back. Zero hams or glutes. The way I do this exercise, it's all back. I think the reason he's doing it with a bench is actually because it keeps his knees kind of spaced out exactly where he needs it to be.
I get that.
You know, like it just he doesn't have to think about it. But he's also doing 2 plates, doing really slow reps, and just
I was
squeezing
gonna
the fuck out of it for sure.
I was gonna say, like, for rack pulls, like 2 plates is like that's less than what I do when I do like my working set. So it's definitely weight that he's like slowly moving and controlling and really focusing on his contraction.
Yeah, it's actually my warm up weight. My warm up weight on rack pulls is 2 plates. I get
Yeah.
like 12. I could easily get like 14 or 15 out of those, like before I really start struggling. So for him, this is super lightweight. He's putting the ego aside, obviously, and just focusing on just muscle contraction and just building it up. Somebody said your traps have their own postcode. But yeah, that's sick. That's an interesting way to do it. Maybe I'll try it later on.
Yeah. Now, you know what always happens is every time we do one of these podcasts and it's not supposed to be one of my lifting days, like today I'm not supposed to lift, I always want to go and lift because
Yeah.
I get in the mood for it, you know.
Yeah, the same thing happens for me too. That's why I like to have a training day after our recording sessions. But today's quads, unfortunately. So not really too excited about that.
Yeah.
But if you look at 5 days ago, he posted a transformation. 10 years ago, he was 170
Yeah.
pounds
I saw
versus
that.
270. And I'm like that's how you know when you're built for men's open, because you can just
You're
put on
able
a
to do that.
shit ton of size. Yeah, you just like
Even with
100
anabolics,
pounds.
not everyone can do that.
Yeah, 100 pounds over 10 years. Like, that's a lot of size to put on. I mean, I think realistically, he probably puts on a good, like, 8-9 pounds of lean muscle tissue a year, which is a solid amount of lean muscle tissue. That's
Yeah.
what my goal is over this next year, is anywhere from 7 to 9 pounds. So that way I'm closer to 190 on stage. That's my goal. So we'll see. Before steroids versus after steroids. Shut the fuck up.
I'm natty now.
Yeah, I was natty, not anymore. After 10 years.
Well, that's what I hate about people who post like that. It's like, you know, you take an absurd amount of stuff and then it's like, I'm natty now. It's like we go back to the Liver King stuff where he's taking like, you know, $14,000 worth of stuff and it's like, well, I'm natty now, even though he's not. But yeah, side tangent.
Yeah, exactly. Here, let's see. And we're back. Sorry, guys. My wife came in. She army crawled in. If you guys are watching on YouTube, when it gets posted, you'll probably see that she was just saying bye.
I didn't even see her, so I'll have to look back in the tape and see.
Yeah, when I post it up, it's like halfway through.
Because Paul's camera blurs the background for anybody who doesn't watch this. So like you can see it, but like it's you know slightly blurred to emphasize Paul in the picture. So I wonder if you can even see anything. You just see the arms crawling in.
Yeah, she was touching my like hip, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?" I thought this was the dog, because the dog came in, and then I saw the dog on the bed, and my hip was still getting touched. So I was like, "That's not the dog." So I looked and it was her, and she was just saying bye because she was leaving. But yeah, so we were talking about Regan Grimes and Milos Sarkev and all of that. So I think I'd love it if he was in the top 3. I just don't think it's doable. Like, I don't think that's reasonable as far as a prediction for this Olympia for men's open. I think top 10 is very doable. Hopefully top 5, but it's hard to say because last time I think he got like 13th or something last Olympia. He was like second or third call out. It wasn't that high, granted, he looked great. Like Regan always looks great, and he's got one of my favorite men's open physiques currently, but it just isn't up there with the other guys quite yet. Which, excuse me, I mean, it comes down to I think a lot of size issues is part of it.
Yeah.
Um, but he's put on a lot of size over the time, and I think he's in a much better place now. I think the biggest places that may pull him back a little bit is simply just his lats. I think he just needs maybe some more width, but I think he still looks great. Like that's the only place I could potentially see them docking him points. It's just his lats, and then just from there be his conditioning, maybe his legs, but his legs look crazy, so I can't imagine that. I have to see his like rear double or something to see if his legs look small, but overall he does look great. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so I think Derek and Hunter Labrada top three, maybe Nick Walker top three. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. People compared Nick Walker and Hunter Labrada pretty often. I think the last Olympia, I think it was Hunter third or fourth, and then Nick right behind him, fourth or fifth, whatever the placing was. I can't quite remember. Let me look it up.
Yeah. I mean, we've been talking about Nick Walker a long time. He just has that freakish appearance, because of how much he takes and how much he puts in his body.
Yeah, he's just a freak, and that's what he gets rewarded for. Yeah, so it's Hottie, then Derek, then Nick, then Brandon, then Big Ramy. Really? Okay. I could have sworn Hunter Labrada placed higher. Maybe I'm thinking of the Arnold or something. But yeah, so Nick got third. So it's very possible that instead of top three being Derek, Hunter, and Hottie, it could be Derek, Nick, and Hottie. I mean, I would love to see a top three of Derek, Hunter, and Nick. I think that'd be a great top three. But we'll have to see. I mean, it's just I'm not the biggest fan of Hunter's midsection. It's just the way he's built. It's just not my favorite. But outside that, I think he's got a really great physique.
And we could be entirely wrong too. That's the good, like one of the most fun things about bodybuilding. We could spit all these predictions, and then something like 2022 Big Ramy happens, where just not at all coming in with the package, and then someone else steps up. Like we could be entirely wrong about it.
Yeah, just completely missing his peak entirely. One of them, Derek, could completely miss it hypothetically, and just come in completely washed out and just lacking all conditioning. But we'll see. I mean, either way, I think I truly think that I got Hunter at first, or not Hunter, Derek at first. Regardless, that's kind of who I'm not going to put any money on it. I don't bet, but I think Derek I'm putting first for sure. Everybody after that, I think Nick third is very reasonable in my opinion, considering he's also put on a lot more size and conditioning this year too. So far from what we've seen, Hottie could be anywhere in there. Brendan Curry, maybe top five is my guess. That's where I got him. He's getting older. His conditioning is harder to get dialed in. I think Hunter top five. So I think top five is probably going to be easier than top three. I think Hottie, Derek, Nick, Hunter, top four, potentially Brendan top five. Like that's my top five right there. But I think I got Derek first.
Yeah.
Nick top three,
and
everybody else is a toss up.
This is Regan Grimes' first Olympia, isn't it?
No.
But in the Open, I mean, sorry.
No, he's on like 2 or 3.
Okay.
Yeah, let me see if I can find his like overall like placings. Usually like people will have like placings of each show. Yeah, this is old. Okay, that's to be determined. He didn't do the 2022 Olympia. He took time off last year. He was in the 2021. Yeah, he said so basically he was competing consistently over the few years prior to the 2022 Olympia. I know he did the 21 Olympia. And really Sarkev points out that size is the biggest factor he wants to bring to the Olympia. So Sark have agreed basically with Grimes that basically just that size is their main focus over the past, I guess now 2 years, which is putting on size. He thinks
Yeah.
that, so Milos Sarkiv was saying that he thinks he has better symmetry. Grimes has better symmetry than most of the competition, including Hadi, Nick, Big Ramy, Brandon. But simply, there's a lot of those guys just have way too much size for Ramy for Regan at the time to compete with. So he's got to put on some more size. So with that being said, I'm trying to find his placings over the years. Maybe Generation Hot Iron has it. Let's see. It's possible. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so 2023, he got first at the Europa Pro. In 21, he got third place at the Prague Pro and first place at the Egypt Pro, which I think is how he qualified for the Olympia. In 2020, he got 15th for Men's Open in the Olympia. In 2021, he also got 15th at the Men's Open Olympia. So that's where all that came in. I think so. 2018, he was doing New York Pro Classic Men's Physique, is where he stopped Classic, I think. Because obviously, like if you look back, there's like all the junior stuff, fitness events, so middleweight, men's bodybuilding. So I think really where he came in was like 2017, because it's saying IFBB men's bodybuilding, IFBB men's bodybuilding, IFBB men's open bodybuilding. So 2017, he must have won a national show in order to get his IFBB pro card. And then, oh wait, maybe it was 2014. No, junior bodybuilding. No, that wouldn't have worked. So 2017, he must have won his pro card, did some pro competitions in men's bodybuilding, moved down in size to classic physique, got first at the New York Pro, but then eighth at the Olympia in classic physique in 2018. So 2018, he did the classic physique at the Olympia, which is wild. I didn't know that. He got eighth. And then 2019, he did men's bodybuilding, 2020, men's bodybuilding, 2021, men's bodybuilding. So he moved up to men's bodybuilding in 2019. And that's what he's competing in now. He just needs to put on size. So he did downsize. So I think they must have, I forget when Oxygen picked him up. It might have been 2016, maybe, when they picked him up, maybe 2017 as an athlete. And then he put all that size for 2017, but then he downsized for 2018 to do classic physique. But he was like, he must have been right on the cusp of like the top weight cap for classic. He had to have been, because he wasn't too far off from men's open size,
Yeah,
he
and I
didn't have to put
mean,
on too much size.
yeah, and we talked about how big he got, so I mean, slimming down probably must have been, a little bit easier than putting on all that size.
Yeah, you just do like literally just rest. You just like, to downsize, really, you train less, you eat less, maybe more cardio potentially, just for overall health. But that's really it. You just do less,
Yeah,
which is like, you talk to any bodybuilder, especially those that have gone through severe, like hard off seasons or hard on seasons, like preps, and taking a rest period, they'll love it. Trust me. Like when I went through prep, and like I'm still going through my rebound and shit, and it's hard. And I can't wait for my rest period soon, like to get healthy and all that. So speaking of which, I think I got my update from last weekend. I believe last weekend is when my coach told me what the plan is. So we're tapering so testosterone, we're tapering down to 150 mgs, which is in quotations the TRT dose. It's still an anabolic amount. I think my total test on 150 mgs is like 1,300 nanograms, which is a solid amount. Like that's anabolic level. Like I'm still making gains with that. Realistically, if I want to do like a TRT dose, probably like 100 mgs, maybe like 80 at the least. That's like a true TRT dose, like 600 nanograms, probably where I'll be in that ballpark with that. But total test at 150 is like 1,200, 1,300. So getting down to that. And then we're adding, so we have everything in stock now, except for Enclomiphene, but we're potentially doing Clomid, Nolvadex, HCG, HMG, and then Enclomiphene potentially. All of these things, it sounds like a lot, but it's really not a lot, because we're only running potentially like ACG for a week, You know, we might blow through it in like a week and a half. Whatever the plan is for Novadex and Clomid, I'm not sure. Enclomiphene. So I think I mentioned, we did talk about Enclomiphene in the past. It was hard to find exactly what it does because it's not, as far as like bodybuilding goes, it's not really been talked about too much. But basically, after looking into other TRT clinics and stuff like that who talk about it, essentially what Enclomiphene it does, because the problem that I was having when I was researching this, it was like every time I looked up Enclomiphene, I'd always find Clomid, right? It was like, why am I always finding results for Clomid when I'm looking up Enclomiphene? It was hard to find true information about Enclomiphene only. So basically, the result of this is Enclomiphene and Clomid are essentially the same thing. Essentially, it shuts down your estrogen production. It just stops essentially your body building up estrogen. The difference is that Clomid has a multiple day half life, where Enclomiphene has like a few hours for half life. And what a half life is let's say a half life is a day. What that means is, let's say you're at 100%, you just took something, and in 24 hours, it'll be 50%. What's left over is in your system still. Then 24 hours after that is 25%. Then 24 hours after that is 12.5%. Every day it cuts down the amount by half, essentially, is what a half-life is. So my headset disconnected for a second. So by having Enclomiphene being a shorter half-life, TRT clinics talk about how they prefer that, because what they can do is you could take Enclomiphene and your estrogen drops down, right? You get the benefits of low estrogen. Your total test will go up. Your testosterone gets more effective. You get more results. Then when the half-life starts to deteriorate, your estrogen goes back up. So then you get the benefits of the estrogen. And then you take your Enclomiphene and it goes back down. You get the benefits of no estrogen, then benefits of estrogen. So that's why they prefer it, because you can get the benefits of both worlds essentially by taking Enclomiphene. Where with Clomid, your half-life, you're essentially shutting down your estrogen for like 4 or 5 days straight. So it's harder to get like that up and down cycle of estrogen and no estrogen. So that's why these TRT clinics are saying, like, for like a PCT or some sort of cycling off, or, you know, anything that you need an estrogen antagonist, that's why they prefer Enclomiphene over Clomid. I also want to say that Clomid can be kind of hard on the liver and kidneys, I want to say, but I couldn't really find much about Enclomiphene in that aspect. So we'll see what the actual plan is there. So potentially looking at like mid to late October potentially for starting my PCT, because we're going down 50 mgs per week. So we're slowly tapering down from 400 down to 150. So that's going to take, you know, whatever it was. If we're going down technically 7 weeks to get down to that. So we're going to taper down to that. I think do a PCT from there, probably like a 2-week PCT based off how long it's taking to taper down everything. And then once everything's back up and running naturally, then we'll probably get blood work done, see where that's at, see where everything's at, and then plan the off season from there. So probably like late October is when we'll probably actually touch the PCT. And then probably like 2 weeks after that, I'll find out what the plan is. Maybe 3 weeks. So we'll see how that goes. But I am ready for prep again in a way. It's like you were mentioning earlier, it's like we love it. And like you talk to any bodybuilder in prep, they'll say the shit sucks. But then you'll talk to them after a show and you're like, I loved it. I didn't realize how much I loved it until I didn't have it anymore. And it's like, it really is super, super addicting. Not really even like the addicting thing is like the results. It's like the goal, you know, like to me, it's like, it's almost like the deadline is addicting, you know, keeping your eye on the prize at all times. Like I was super motivated and disciplined because I had this deadline. When you don't have a deadline, like right now, it's very difficult for me to stay disciplined because there's no deadline. There's no goal for something. It's just, all right, we're just going to taper down. We're just going to stick to this plan. Like that's hard for me to stay disciplined because I don't have like, okay, October 10th is when I need to come in dialed in or whatever it is. This is what I'm building up to, is this particular day. And every day we're going to evaluate and make sure that we're getting closer and closer to that day. But then now it's like, there's no day. There's even like, I can't even tell what week we're even potentially looking at for making a change. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
It's more difficult there. But I was talking to my coach about it yesterday and how much I missed prep and how much I loved it. And I was like, man, the Monday after the show, I missed it. Like almost like it was like I missed it almost immediately. And he was talking about how he's been in the off season for about 2 years now, putting on size. And he's like, I was like, man, I could even imagine 2 years off. Like, I can even imagine how much I'd miss it at that point, considering I'm only been out or haven't even competed for like 7 weeks now. And yet I still miss it.
Yeah.
Um, as much as I do 7 weeks out, let alone 2 years, like that's a fucking long ass time. But we should be able to compete year after year now, every single year. So I'm looking forward to that at least.
And I was gonna say, I mean, it took 2.5 years for you to even hit the stage too. So it's like that feeling of you finally made it, and then it's like, now we're back to time off.
Yeah. Yeah. We did talk about that when coach was like, yeah, we're going to, compete each year, no more 3-year off seasons. Like this
Yeah.
is you're where you need to be to start competing every year. And what's wild is that like, I didn't realize this, but when you're going through the prep, the other addicting thing is you're also improving your body for after your show too, right? So like, even though like, so like if I compared myself, because right now I'm approaching 200 again. If I compare myself at the weight I am now versus the weight I was before my shows at the same weight, like the look that I had at the same weight, I'm in much better conditioning now than I was then. And it's you're getting rid of all the stubborn fat. You're a lot of the size I'm putting on right now is a lot of it's muscle. Some of it's fat for sure. Like a lot of it's sitting in my belly, but like there's my fat distribution is much more even now than it was. It's not so lopsided anymore. So that's also exciting too, is that I get to look forward to each show that I hit. I'll be more conditioned year round afterwards, so like that's exciting. So the next show I hit, I'll probably have potentially like a 6-pack year round. And then after that, I'll be like pretty conditioned year round. And then after that, it's like, I'm not too far off from like saying, let's do prep anytime. Like, you know what I mean? It's just going to keep improving. So it's exciting. I'm looking forward to it, but it is very addicting, to go through prep and all of that. It is. I miss it.
And eventually you'll be Olympia ready year round.
Yeah, I'll be Olympia conditioned, just dice to the gills. But,
body literally craving just a drop of water.
yeah. I mean, there's dudes like C-Bum talked about how like he was on diuretics 4 weeks out from the Olympia one year. I'm like, that's fucking crazy. Like, I don't even understand the point of that. I'm like, that's so far out. That's like, that's like eating a meal and being like, yeah, this is my pre-workout for 3 days from now. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Well, so on that note too, you had a interesting thing that you texted me earlier this week about C-Bum, since we're talking about the Olympia.
Yeah. So it was just a conversation my coach and I were having about Classic and Open and all of that and the people that are in it and stuff. And he mentioned that he thinks it's a good chance that C-Bum might retire after this year's Olympia, which I would not be surprised. Here's my thing. I think if he doesn't retire this year, I would put my money on next year, because yes, he looks the best he's ever looked, but also, he just got married. They're probably talking about kids soon, or engaged. Are they married yet? I don't even know.
I don't remember. I know that. Here, I'll just check real quick. I know they were engaged a while back.
Yeah, they've been engaged for a while. I can't remember if they got married or not. Probably not, but he's at the point where he's got like raw nutrition and all of that. He's got everything in that ballpark. He's got business. He's got social media, all of that to focus on. There's a lot going on, I think, that could potentially pull him away from the Olympia. But again, he might not. It's hard to say. But it's possible that this year he will. I mean, C-Bum to me seems like someone who would retire after a win. He wouldn't push it until a loss. He would push it until he's like, okay, I think I'm the best I could possibly be. Like even last year, it's like he's having trouble, I'm pretty sure, hitting the weight cap. Like that's his problem right now, is that he has to like really like get dialed in to like just barely make the weight cap. And that's a problem. So I think that like he'd have to like just kind of maintain, essentially, is where he's at now for each Olympia, and just maybe a little bit of size, but then like a little better conditioning, a little less water, just so you can hit the weight cap. And like that's a lot of stress. Like hitting that weight cap is a lot of stress. So I think, and like he also had that William Stevenson podcast episode or whatever it is that he was on. He talked about like different anabolics he wouldn't touch and stuff because it's not worth the health risk and whatever. And like he wouldn't touch Tren, for instance, because it's just too much of a health risk. And it's like, okay, if he's not willing to touch Tren, for instance, which Tren you can take in a healthy manner, it's just how you take it is what
Yeah.
matters. Yes, it is very toxic to the body, especially compared to other anabolics, but it's not going to take years off your life if you're smart with it. So for him to be like, I'm not going to touch this drug because it's too toxic, it kind of puts you in like, okay, maybe he's much more health conscious than a lot of these other bodybuilders, so he's probably going to call it earlier than other bodybuilders would. Is kind of what my mind is thinking when I heard something like that. So I would not be surprised if he was like, you know what, I think I brought the best package I could possibly bring. I don't think there's any more we could do now. I've won 5 Olympias. I think this year will be 5 if he wins. I
Yeah,
think
he's the
I'm at
4-time right now.
yeah. So 5 this year. That's a whole hand of rings potentially. If it was rings, it's 5 is one hand. I think I think that's something that he would do. I would not be surprised if he was like, you know what, for me to really like, I can't really bring anything better, and I'm pushing all this through my body, and all these other guys are coming up, and I think he might be like, it's just my time to step down. Like it's my time. I crushed it, did the best that I could, got the 5 wins. I'm very satisfied with my career. And like, he's got like 12, 13 million fucking Instagram followers. He's got his businesses to focus on, his family coming up. I mean, there's a lot
Yeah.
more going on. And like the other thing too, is that just because he's done potentially, not obviously he isn't yet, but just because he could be done the Olympia, done competing, doesn't mean he's not done training and he's not done the lifestyle. You still live the lifestyle, you're like, I'll always train. Like bodybuilders always train. It's part of who we are. It's, I'll always eat that same way. I'll always have like kind of like a meal plan. Like it might be more relaxed once one day I'm done bodybuilding. Same with C-Bum, but it's kind of part of you. So it's not like he will stop posting social media. It's not like he won't stop working on his physique. Like you'll always want to be like and have a very impressive physique. And you're still young, so you can still have an insane physique. It's just competing specifically is probably where he's going to call it a day.
And he'll even still do guest posing too. 100%. Big money right there.
Oh, dude, to get fucking C-Bum to guest pose, because I don't think he does any guest posing right now. So in the future, bro,
Yeah.
fuck, man, some of these like fucking B tier Olympia competitors, like getting like 20th are doing guest posing, and they're getting paid like 10 grand to do guest posing. So I mean, to get C-Bum to guest pose, are you shitting me? That's like
my
fucking 50 grand.
I was gonna say it's gonna be like my year's salary.
Yeah, like just to do one guest pose, and he'll come in like he'll just show up, get a quick tan, pose for 2 minutes, and then bounce. Like, you know what I mean? It's wild. I mean, I think like I think like Logan's like 15 grand for something like that. I want to say like Hunter was like 20 is what I heard. Hunter Labrada, like it's fucking crazy. Like the amount of money that these guys make, and then like,
and C-Bum is considered the most aesthetic man of like all time. So like that premium is going to be absurd.
oh yeah, he's C-Bum. You can't. It's like getting Arnold Arnold in his prime, getting Arnold in his prime to guest post somewhere. Like
Which is crazy because back then Arnold's guest posing was him going to places trying to raise, attention for bodybuilding. So he was doing it more or less for free.
Yeah, it's to get the sport bigger.
Yeah.
But the sport is where it is now. I mean, partially because of him.
Yeah.
But, actually, I meant to mention that. So there's this video I was watching recently about, was it Franco? Fuck, who was it? It was a video. No, shit. Sergio Oliva. So I was watching this video as a motivational video talking about Sergio Oliva and how he was like the most underrated bodybuilder back in the day and all of that. And somebody said in the comments, they said there's an interview that's hard to find where Arnold said that Sergio Oliva had the best physique of all time or something. And people were talking about in the comments, they were like, oh, I was raised, I was born in the 60s and grew up in the 70s and all of that. And they said, I went to a bodybuilding show that had Sergio Oliva. And they said, you'd have to see him in person to truly believe what physique he had. Because photos don't do him justice. But apparently Sergio Oliva had like the best physique of all time. He's the one who
Yeah.
kind of like invented not the scorpion pose, but kind of like this like praying mantis kind of thing up high. And like he's the only one who can do that because that's what his physique calls for. And people were arguing in the comments like if it wasn't for Arnold, Sergio would have gone like if it wasn't for Arnold being influential, Sergio would have gone down as one of the best physiques of all time.
Oh yeah.
That's what people were arguing. But Sergio was kind of before Arnold's time. So, and photos and videos and all of that weren't where they are today. So it's hard to say exactly, but just a kind of food for thought there. Sergio Oliva Jr., I think looks crazy. He hasn't really brought his career to the top yet. And I think it's just because of his focus. I think it's just his focus hasn't been there. Hard to say, but I think Sergio Oliva could have had a really good physique if he really wanted to, and really compete at the top level, top level. I called that a few years ago. I was like, man, Sergio Oliva is going to be fucking crazy, and you just never really went anywhere with it in the Olympia level. But yeah, so to kind of loop it back, I think classic physique this year. I think top 3. I'm thinking Ramon, Urs, C-Bum, maybe Logan Franklin is top 3. One of those. C-Bum for sure first. I think if I could have my top 3 of anybody, I think I'd go C-Bum, Logan, Urs, then Ramon. But that's just because of my own personal preference. But I think top 3 realistically, probably C-Bum, maybe Logan. Like it's like either Logan or Urs, and then Ramon probably second is probably what's going to end up happening.
Yeah.
But I just wish Ramon's arms and forearms were a bit smaller. I think that's something that it just really pulls away from his physique for me. He's very like Popeye, so we'll see.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, there was a little Olympia preview for you. We're about a month away, so get hyped.
Exciting stuff.
Hell yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys later. Thanks for listening.
Peace, everybody.
See ya.